Thank you for joining us today. In the studio, we have Renee Oswald Anderson, the Vice President of the Community Center building at the Neighborhood House. Today we're just going to talk about the food shelf program and what you guys have to offer the Neighborhood House building. What are the type of foods that are most needed for the food shelf now?
Our basic needs program is one of our oldest programs at Neighborhood House, which is located at the Paul and Sheila Wellstone Center for Community Building. And the foods that I have here today are sort of the common staples that we use in our food shelf because we work really hard and pride ourselves in providing culturally appropriate food. So corn flour is really important to many Hispanic and Latino families, and it's commonly given out. Rice, and we talk about all the different varieties of rice, and often the phrase is, all rice is not created equal. And certainly minute rice won't be found in our food shelves, but many different kinds of rice. And then as we look to my immediate left, looking at some of the noodles and the canned vegetables that are part of Southeastern Asians and the Hmong community's diet.
Okay. Well, how has the Neighborhood House food shelf changed over the last couple of years? You guys have a new building this year, just opened. Compared to the old building, how has it gotten bigger? Or?
Our food shelf has tripled in space, and so it is now a self-selection, which we had previously, but now we actually have room to get shopping carts into the mini market model, as it will, as well as great storage space for volunteers to load and unload the groceries and the donations. So that's one of the things that has changed, is the actual physical plant in terms of coolers and amenities. But more importantly, what we've seen in the last few years is the amazing demand and need for the food shelf. And certainly we've seen huge growth in the number of pounds that we distribute in the community.
Right. I've read that you guys are up 32% for your food shelf. How are these families affected by not having enough food or not having the right foods for their families for the summertime? Because kids being out of school, they obviously demand more food at home. So how is it affecting these families?
One of the things that I think is not commonly known, and your question is really perfect for this time of year, is that food shelf demand, as opposed to over the holidays, is really at its peak during the summer around free and reduced lunches. And yesterday we had 59 visits. That was 59 different families got appointments and saw one of our staff or social work interns. Typically during the regular year, we staff at about 30 to 35 appointments. And again, it's all about demand, and there's no free breakfast programs and no free and reduced breakfast or lunch. So the demand is huge during the summer, and often the community at large may not think about peak demand in the food shelf. We see August as one of our busiest months.
Wow. Wow. And what foods besides the rice? I mean, is it mostly their cultural foods that are needed? I did read about, the African community, the Hmong community wanting more of their foods from home to help, kind of fill that inside of them coming from, their country here to the States.
One of the things we do in our basic needs program is really do a blend of cultural foods, food that people are familiar with, and brings them a sense of home and comfort and bridges that isolation. But one of the other things we do is also think about what it would be more mainstream foods and how to use those in folks' diet. So staples are like peanut butter, breakfast cereals, any of the canned fishes, tuna, salmon, those kinds of things are hugely important to families because they're an important source of protein. Likewise, fresh fruits and vegetables. And one of the really fun things about summer is people, if they have excess produce, can donate that to our food shelf or to the food shelf in their neighborhood. We have coolers to keep everything nice and fresh, and certainly that's the way some of our participants who may have gardens give back to the community and donate back.
Definitely. How do people go about, if people from the community wanted to help, besides different funding organizations, how could they go about donating or helping in any sort of a way?
People can do that in one of three ways. They, as a family, can bring in donations of product, and we have suggested lists that include all the cultural food as well as staples like dish detergent, laundry soap, Pampers, hugely important things for families, and they're very expensive. So they can get the list as an individual or family through their faith community or their business. They can set up a food drive And the third way is to donate cash. And we purchase specialty produce and products through various local vendors and market, as well as through Second Harvest.
Okay.
And that we produce that and receive that at a very reduced cost.
Okay, great. And what are the challenges that some of these low-income families are facing, not being able to get the amount of food that they need for their family?
Food is just that basic survival. And when you or your children are hungry, how is it that you get to your job? Many of the families we work with are employed in one or two things, but it is that basic, how do kids learn in school? And we have many children in summer school right now. And so being able to access food gets people over that crisis. People get food for 3 days. And then people also look at what other kind of community resources we can help families with in our basic needs program. So food is what we primarily distribute and provide, but also its connections to community resources, whether it be furniture, whether that be clothing, help with medical bills, all kinds of things are part of helping folks get back on their feet and move from simply surviving, but it is about helping families really thrive.
Definitely. You know, we could talk about this all day. I just, you know, is there any sort of a phone number, a website, an address, anything that these people can contact watching if they want to help donate? And also, do you guys accept certificates of any sort, Cub Foods, Rainbow Foods, anything like that, to give families?
I'll start with our basic number. The agency's main number is area code 651-789-2500, and our receptionist will connect folks with a volunteer coordinator, with their basic needs manager in terms of donating and supporting foods. That's also the number that community members who may need the food shelf can call and get appointments. We provide services in 5 languages.
Great.
And so our basic needs intake department is, the intake line is done in Spanish and in Hmong, and then there are also staff members that speak Somali, Eritrean, Laotian, Russian. So we will provide services in those core languages also as a way to access services. We also have a website, and it's www.neibghb.org.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Renee, for joining us today. This has been a great topic. I'm sure we'll be touching up on it in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.